3 movies this week.
Sorry it's late.
One of them was not one of the ones we were counting on.
Nope.
But they both have the same actor in them, so
yes,
we're good to go. And we're going to start with Paul Blart Asshole 2.
Yes!
That joke goes back a long way.
Yeah, it does.
And I won't explain it. That's just what it's called. This is the extremely belated sequel. It's really weird because when this movie came out in January of 2009...
God, it was that long.
We know because we were there.
Yeah.
In that theater with that crowd.
Yeah, we were.
6 years ago. Over 6 years ago because it came out in January. And it was expected to be just another comedy. What was not expected, if I recall correctly at the time, was how much fucking money it made.
It was ridiculous.
And all the TV spots afterwards said the first blockbuster of the year, the first blockbuster of 2009. I remember it so clearly. So it's kind of weird that they waited this long for this. Like at least 2011 would have been probably a proper time. They probably, with how lazy they were on this one, they could have cranked it out the very next year.
Oh yeah.
But okay, fine. Well, this time it actually has a really funny opening because it shows us the very end of the first movie when he ends up with J.M. Mays, and they get married, and the groomsmen are on the segways and all that stupid bullshit. But then we learned that 6 days later, she realized the mistake she made and they got a divorce.
Yes.
I thought that was really funny. And then to top it off on that, his mom gets hit by a milk truck and killed. And that really shocked the child sitting there.
Yeah, that was great. That was great,
like,
their reaction, too.
I was like, wow, what direction is this movie going? This is really promising. It ended there.
Wow, that lady's dead. I believe is the line that the child uttered.
Oh my god, she died!
It got me to laugh.
Hilarity ends there, though.
Yep.
Because, and that just wasn't because you heard me in the last video, there's proof.
Yeah.
I went into this open-minded because I was indifferent to the other one.
Yep.
It gets a lot of hate, but I was indifferent to it. So I had no expectations going into this. I didn't think it was gonna, necessarily be anything good, but I wasn't, expecting something terrible either. Except I learned last night, apparently, we only had like 7 reviews, but as of last night it had a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's probably a little more now as things are progressing, but, so, yeah, it goes downhill from there for sure. So he gets something in the mail, and they saw the events from the first movie in a really, much like this movie itself, is a very late reaction. But they want to invite him out to Las Vegas to honor him for something. At the same time that it's still at a 0 with how many reviews?
36. This is 37.
Well, yeah, if that were the case.
Yes.
So, in a row?
Exactly.
And there's 0 fresh, so yes, in a row. Okay, so, no need to bring clerks into this, because I don't know if these fan bases...
Probably not. That's like I want to bring up Observe and Report, but I don't think that would work either.
Yeah. Okay, so, he's going to Las Vegas for this thing to get honored. At the same time, he finds out that his daughter has been accepted into UCLA, but she doesn't keep it from him because that plot. And of course, because a lot of people the fans of the first movie tried to say it was a comedic version of Die Hard's Dead in a Mall. Which, yeah, I guess is true, but yeah.
We're happy Observe and Report exists.
So much like John McClane, this stuff follows Paul Blart around wherever he goes. That's the last time I'm making that comparison, just so you know. And we have Neil McDonough, who is here, who's the only other person in this movie I recognize, by the way. Who is stealing paintings or some bullshit. And he's the token villain of the story. Even though, I kept forgetting he was in the movie, because the first half of the movie is just Paul Blart doing dumb shit. And then this plot just kind of keeps sticking its head up every now and then until it's finally the second half of the movie. For the longest time, I didn't really know how to take this movie because, like, when there is a bad comedy, I don't tend to worry about the review because I know once I sit in front of the camera, it'll speak for itself.
Yeah, of course.
But for the entire first half of this movie, I was worried about the review because fucking nothing was happening.
Nope.
Like, there's nothing to even really single out as something it's doing wrong as a comedy, and it not being funny and stuff like that. There's just this movie was giving me nothing. It was giving me nothing to like, and it was giving me nothing to hate. It was just existing. I almost forget the entire... We saw it... What was it? 3 hours ago? 4 hours ago? It was the second movie today of 3. I have already forgotten a lot of it. But I will try to kind of push my way through this.
Try like 6 hours ago.
The problem with it is... It doesn't even... I could sit here all day and say it's not funny. It did this and it wasn't funny, and it did that and it wasn't funny, and Kevin James isn't funny and stuff like that. But I cannot think of a time off the top of my head in the first half where it was trying to be funny, or gave off that it was trying to be funny.
No.
It was just kind of...
Existing.
It was just happening. This movie had no purpose.
Nope.
There are things here and there, like he does the fucking bullshit on the Segway, doing, like, you know, tricks and shit to impress people, and there's that. And there's this recurring theme with this, she's the general manager of the hotel he's staying in, and it's an ongoing joke that kind of keeps building, where she's, you know, just acting normal to him, but he's taking it as she's coming on to him, and he's trying to say, you know, no, I just went through a bad relationship. It's funny because she's hot and he's Kevin James, and he's the one rejecting her, even though she's not even coming on to him. He just sees it that way. But as this joke progresses, it does actually start to become that. There's something clever in that joke, but this movie couldn't find it. It was there on the surface. You could tell there was something, but this movie just doesn't do anything.
I got a Paula Patton vibe from that girl, too. I know that wasn't who it was, but that's who it was reminding me of.
And things happen in this movie for the sake, once it gets going and it starts to realize, oh yeah, we're making a movie here, we should probably start doing stuff that resembles a comedy, or at least resembles a bad comedy. We need to be doing something. So, you have shit in here where it's, he punches an old lady. Hilarious. I'm surprised it wasn't a Betty White cameo.
It could have been.
Honestly.
She might be too good for this.
There's this scene that totally baffled me. Where, he's preparing for the speech that he's gonna give. So he goes outside. It's pretty much exactly what I said about the plane scene in Unfinished Business. Mm-hmm. He's revving up for his speech, he's getting ready, so he goes outside to kind of get some fresh air and kind of just go through what he's going to say, and he sits down, and this giant bird comes walking out. This bird has not been introduced in this movie until this very moment. This bird came from nowhere. Mm-hmm. And it just starts to fly at him and attack him, and he slapsticks around, and then he goes back inside. And revs up for his speech, and then goes out and gives the speech. Okay. That scene happened.
Yeah.
And another thing like that. When he's, like, in the back area, and there's a security guard there, and he's trying to pass himself off as a storage guy or something. And he convinces the guy, and then the guy's like, okay, now that you convinced me, I'm going to sit here and have my lunch if that's okay. And he's like, yeah, I just got to ask you some questions. I don't remember where this scene was going, but he's posing as a guy in that storage area. And this guy's lunch consists, he has a bag with him. It's one of those brown bags that you took to school.
Yeah.
And apparently the only thing in this bag is a rotten banana. And while Blart is attempting to question him, he is eating this rotten banana and grossing him out. Once again, that is the extent of that scene. It has no purpose whatsoever. They went into making this movie. They had 6 years.
Yeah.
They had 6 years to make this movie. And they clearly went in with no ideas at all. Kevin James is apparently the main writer. He was the first one listed, and then that other guy.
Nick Bakay.
And what did they have in mind with that? I don't get it. And it's totally... This is another thing that's totally mind-boggling, is the whole purpose is that security has been taken over by Neil McDonough's guys. Most of them, not all of them. Well, here's the thing. One guy is standing here, and he's pointing a gun at Kevin James, okay? Kevin James figured out who he was, and now that he knows, he is pointing a gun at Kevin James. That is what's happening now. So, and the whole point is to stop these guys. That's what he's revved up for. That's the whole thing. That's what he does. That's why his job is what it is. That's why he's being honored. That's why he did what he did in the first movie. To stop this from happening. So what happens in this scene, when he has a gun pointed at him, 2 legit security guards come up. Now, you may think he's under the impression that they're bad too. But that is clearly not the case, because they come up to see what the problem is. In a legit security way, not like they work for the guy. Mm. They are actual security, because they distracted the guy. And when security comes up and says, "What's the problem?" the guy with the gun turns around to look at them. And what does Paul Blart do in this situation? The hero they've been building up this whole movie and an entire movie before this, where he took down an entire crew of people. He screams and runs the other direction for comedy's sake. Instead of telling the legit security guards what's happening. Telling them who this other security guard they clearly do not recognize is. And they leave the scene at that. That one was pretty baffling. Okay. So, it's that kind of stuff. Now, you see what I'm talking about here? In a movie like this, generally the attitude is, it's a stupid comedy. It's got slapstick in it. Let's not overthink things. Let's just enjoy what's in front of us.
And the people in the theater were doing that.
But the scenes I just told you about, it's kind of hard to get past that shit.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see the movie that way. Well, for starters, it's not even... Like, the first half of the movie was so bewildering to me because it wasn't even necessarily that it was, painfully bad. I was just so fucking bored with it.
And it could have taken place anywhere. It didn't necessarily have to go to Vegas or anything like that. It could have taken place at any city.
Yeah, that had no significance either because they didn't leave that one hotel.
Yeah. Just the Steve Wynn
they wanted the shots when he got there.
Yeah.
The montage.
Oh, of course.
That's it, really. There's one funny scene. There's this funny scene towards the end, the big showdown, where Kevin James and Neil McDonough are face to face and they're just trading insults. That scene's really funny. And the stuff from the beginning, of course. But, yes. And it's one of those movies where you deal with this stuff for so long. The movie feels really long.
Yeah, it does.
It's like an hour 30-something. But it feels really long.
You know more than you think you do in this cast.
And, Anna Gassar was in it.
Nicholas Turturro. He was the other cop. He was the one that was actually going to give the keynote speech.
Surely not. I didn't even recognize her because we saw her once before she got hit by the truck.
Yeah.
So, yeah. For the most part, I'm just at a loss for words with this movie because it didn't even... It's just giving me nothing to work with.
Yeah, pretty much.
For the most, there's all the bad stuff to say about it is just what I said. They have no idea what they're doing with this script. All of the setups for the comedy scenes don't even have... There's nothing. They just happen, and they have no significance in the rest of what is happening.
No.
They're just like really, really bad slapstick jokes that just came to mind that they just threw in there because they know that's what Kevin James does. He just throws his body around. And that's about it. That's it. He does the thing where he says things you can tell are supposed to be kind of funny, but as you can see, I'm struggling to remember a single one of them.
He laughs at his own jokes, too.
Oh, well.
But the character does that, so I understand that.
So, he tries to do the scene in Christmas Vacation when, Clark is talking to Mary behind the counter, and he's making all the innuendos by accident. And she says, "Can I take something out for you?" And he does the really long, squeaky laugh. He tries that at the beginning. But, Kevin James is no Chevy Chase. No. Especially in the Christmas Vacation era. So, yes. No, just... There's not... Yeah. It's just... The movie is so goddamn pointless. There's nothing else to say about it.
David Henry's back, for those of you that used to watch The Wizards of Waverly Place. And he looks the same as he did back when he was on the show. So... Okay. I had to bring that up. It's me.
Okay. Our second movie is Unfriended, which was originally called Cybernatural.
I don't know if I like that title, actually. What do you think?
I don't know either. I know a lot of... Okay.
It gives more away that way.
Well, let's address...
Kind of.
It's one of those things where once you kind of like... I have this theory with Child's Play where if you're watching it for the first time and you don't know the setup for the first half of the movie, you could legitimately think the killer's Andy.
That's true.
I guess in this case, you can kind of maybe think it's one of them and not actually, supernatural.
I thought it was.
But I think people get it. Yeah.
As you progress, you definitely get it.
Yeah. So, just like when people go into Child's Play, I have that theory about Andy, but people know it's Chucky when they go in. And not just because of the poster, people just know that. So I assume people just know that going into this as well. That the killer's supernatural, not Chucky, of course. That would have been a fucking wild twist.
Yeah, just a tad.
Okay, so, as you probably know from the advertisements, there is a girl named Laura Barnes who was humiliated by a YouTube video and killed herself. And on the anniversary of her death, there were 6 of them, right? There are 6 friends on a group Skype call, and there is a mysterious person not showing their face, who is talking to them, who's contacting them from Laura's account, and basically plays games with them for the next hour and 20 minutes. And it's told from the there was this short that was going around for a while called Noah. I don't know how many people saw it. But it was considered a groundbreaking short where the entire thing, it was about a guy who basically loses his girlfriend over a stupid misunderstanding. And it's about 16 minutes long, and it takes place entirely on the monitor of a computer. And this pretty much takes that exact approach, just makes a horror story out of it, and makes it feature length. I was under the impression that apparently this movie was getting despite the fact that some good reviews started coming out relatively quickly, and it's still doing well critically now.
It's better.
It's better than you'd think it would be.
Yeah.
Apparently this movie was getting a lot of ridicule from people, like, when the trailer came out. Like, everybody was saying it looked really, really stupid and not scary, and, apparently, after the trailer was released, there were a lot of parody trailers on YouTube about it.
Really?
Just, like, making fun of it and shit. Which is fine, because not that I would ever compare these two movies in quality, I'm just saying. A lot of people also made fun of Gravity when the first trailer came out. They thought it was a ridiculous concept.
I remember that.
But, I'm not saying Unfriended's Gravity or anything, I'm just saying trailers can certainly be deceiving if they look terrible.
Very much so.
My alarms about this movie were raised because I was reading trivia about it, and apparently, before they decided to release this in theaters, it was a made-for-TV movie for MTV. And that just has red flags.
I get that vibe, honestly.
But they had like a test screening of it, and it went so well. They're like, we could like release this in theaters and make a shitload of money.
And that will happen.
So that's what they did. And yeah, there's a lot of different things going on in this movie, actually. And I love the concept of the whole, you know, I know people are going to consider it unoriginal because it's still technically a found footage movie. But, and, you know, Skype was already tackled in VHS, but not like this, really.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, it is kind of, it has to win you over, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I understand, you know, like, maybe people won't get used to the concept right away, or maybe, like, I don't know how many people know going in that the entire thing is set just on her computer monitor.
I'm going to guess not very many.
And it's really clever the way they bring the story out of it, too, because they don't really do it matter-of-factly. They do it, like, the very first scene of the movie is her watching the video of Laura's suicide on LiveLeak. And she even has to do the whole "you must be 18 to view this video" click.
Awesome.
And much like what Noah got acclaim for, the realism of this movie being set on a computer monitor and the stuff that they go through, like all the way down. I don't know why this of all things, but one of the things that really impressed me about the realism was the dislike bar on the Laura YouTube video. For some reason, that just struck me as like, wow, for some reason, that makes it seem more real.
And when Laura cut the promo and everybody said she hated everyone with the pictures and everything, I noticed there was like...
Yeah, what was that one girl's name that like killed herself on YouTube or something? I can't remember her name now, but yeah. I think there's been a couple of those, but one of them like got famous. It was in the vein of that.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, and the thing that kind of bugged me, though, was there are some convoluted things in there, like, you get... you have to understand... I don't want to spoil too much. Apparently, I've been hearing a lot of... Obviously, I didn't see them myself, but I've heard a lot of complaints that there's way too much in the trailer.
Yeah, a lot of high spots are in the trailer, for sure.
Okay, but I will just like to point out that I did find it a little stupid, the way they reveal... these are normal teenagers, and they really come off that way. It's really, really convincing.
Yeah. I've heard these conversations before.
But the thing about it is all of them have this really convoluted way of introducing a weapon that is near them. Maybe not necessarily a weapon, but something that can absolutely be used as a weapon. Like the opening scene where Blair and Mitch they're getting ready to kind of, do a cyber thing together with her unbuttoning her shirt and showing her underwear and stuff like that. And Mitch is doing the thing where, people kind of like to do the rape roleplay thing where you have a knife and stuff like that. And that's what Mitch is doing. Mitch has a legitimate knife that is like this long on his bedside table, prepared for this, because I guess that's what Blair's into.
That says something about her, I guess.
Yeah, but, people have their kinks.
It's Billy and Sydney for a new generation.
But the thing about it is, I get that people are into that, and I'm not exactly, hip to what, 17-year-olds are doing on Skype these days.
Neither am I.
But it seems a little illogical that he would have a legitimate knife on his bedside table for purposes like this. I don't think that roleplay works the same way on a screen.
Usually you have a fake knife, which still gives the image, but it's not...
Long story short, lazy foreshadowing.
Yeah, big time.
And where we're introduced to the kid, Ken, is the kid from Terry and Fat Kid Rules the World. His name is Jacob something. Terry and Fat Kid Rules the World are really good movies.
Waisaki.
Yes. Apparently he uses a blender to make his own salsa. In this blender, he keeps in his room.
Sure.
That won't come back either, just so you know.
Nope.
And there's more of those. Adam's dad has a gun that he keeps talking about.
Yeah. I love it when the lights go out. He's like, I have a gun! Okay.
There's stuff like that is kind of like, you could have done that a little smoother.
Yeah, just a bit.
But it's alright. I was really intrigued when I read about the way this movie was made, where it's to my understanding that obviously the movie does not leave this Skype call. They hang up and try to come back, but it's all in this one area of time. It's pretty much, the movie is an hour and 20 minutes long, and the actual events are set in the time frame of an hour and 20 minutes.
It's all on her computer too.
Yes. And apparently the way it was shot was it was all the actors doing like individual long takes and they would just do the whole thing.
They film with webcams and stuff like that?
I have no idea.
For realism?
It was a little vague, but
right
to my understanding, they pretty much did the whole thing from beginning to end, just in these really long takes. And then the makers, I guess, would like change shit up so they could get like real reactions and not tell them what was going to happen and stuff like that.
That's cool.
And yeah, that is worth noting. One thing that really you would not think this is one of the cases in a movie like this, especially in the horror genre with a cast this young. The performances in this movie are really, really what make this movie.
Yeah.
What is that girl's name? I feel bad for not knowing her name right away.
There's your cast right there.
Yeah, it's not giving me character names though.
Oh, brilliant. Hold on.
Nice.
It'll be hard, don't worry.
Well, the thing about it was, the reason I kind of figured this movie might be a little more than I thought, Blair's name is Shelley Hennig. And she is fantastic. Oh my god. She's going places. Oh shit, she was in Ouija.
That's not good.
But yeah, apparently she's known for being in Teen Wolf, and yeah, you can see like a little tab for Teen Wolf on her computer as a joke. But
she was on Days too.
Yes. The reason I kind of knew, this might seem a little dumb, especially since a lot of people were criticizing the movie before it even came out. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. The advertisements for this movie that are just kind of like you see them on the sides of the screens all the time, where it's her and she's got like the tears and she's like screaming and it says the movie, the title and stuff like that. Seeing that advertisement always kind of stressed me out because she has such her terror in this movie is so genuine. Like, even out of context, because I didn't even, watch the trailers and stuff like that. I assume that's a trailer shot, it would have to be.
Yeah, it is.
Every time I see that advertisement, it would, like, stress me out. So I was like, oh my god, she looks like she's in real distress right now. And yes, that follows through in her actual performance. And the fact that she was able to get to me with just the picture they're using to advertise the movie, she's a really impressive actress. And everybody in this movie is, really.
Yeah. Like,
none of them really stood out as, like, maybe the guy playing Mitch was the weakest of them, but even then, I can't complain. And the way it builds and actually uses its concept and takes it in different ways. One of the great scenes of the movie, which almost kind of, I know I'm really throwing out high praise here, but there is a long scene in this movie that rivals the opening of Scream. The Never Have I Ever game.
That is really awesome, but I wouldn't go that far.
Oh yeah, because the great thing about it is they're now under the impression the kind of danger that they're in.
Yeah.
They have seen horrific things happen already at this point in the night. Mm-hmm. They know what's happening right now is really happening to them, and that they are not safe by any... Not only are they not safe, but they could die in the most horrific way at any given second. And Billy is the name it's under, is playing this game with them, and they have to, instead of drinking, they're holding up fingers and, counting down each time they have... And whoever runs out is the one that's killed next.
Yeah, never have I ever always ends in a fight.
It never gets to that point.
No.
It goes... That's how off the wall this movie gets. And what I love is there's this great moment right in the middle of the game where Billy is in complete control and freaking everybody out, and everybody is at her mercy. And there's a point in time in this game where it gets so out of control that Adam takes over the game. Like, he gets to a point to where something reaches so high, he says, alright, I've got one. Billy, give me the clock. And the clock comes up.
He goes full Billy right there. He is Billy Loomis right there, without a doubt. He goes completely psycho and he takes everything over.
And that scene is fucking crazy.
Oh, I love it. I love the way it rolls, too.
And yeah, you can shake your head all you want. Yeah. It really rivals the opening of Scream. It gets that out of control.
It's not as great as Scream, but it's up there without a doubt.
Well, that's because Scream's already at a legendary status. Yes. But I think once this movie's... Like, here's the thing, is you go on the internet, and people are being the way they are on the internet. They're saying, wow, this doesn't look scary and it looks like shit, but I'm going to go see it anyway.
Yeah, of course.
When people see it, I think it's going to get a reputation.
I think it's going to get a great cult following.
I hope so. It
deserves it.
There will be people bullheaded enough to go in and say that wasn't scary, and then they'll try to be butch to their friends and say, that wasn't scary.
I love the Skype-ness, too, because anybody that's ever dealt with Skype knows that things can glitch all the time, and it's great because all of a sudden, before anything bad happens, it glitches, and then next thing you know, craziness happens, and then they disappear off the call.
I imagine a lot of people are probably going to complain that it does the lagging and the glitchiness a lot.
But that's what happens on Skype!
Now, there are, horror movie moments. Like, it does the thing where, one of the great things I always mention I love about found footage, because I've reviewed found footage so many goddamn fucking times here.
And you're not done yet.
Was that, they can't be cheap and make the score being loud scare you, because found footage movies can't have a score, otherwise they'd be not found footage movies. They'd be found footage found by some composer who decided to score it before he showed it to everybody. It's a hobby. He does it while he watches it. He just has a keyboard in front of him.
That's a movie waiting to happen right there.
Yeah. So,
short time.
It's like Barbarian Sound Studio is a slasher movie.
Very good point.
So, here's the thing. It does have those moments where it does try for jump scares where something, like, true to life will happen, but it'll be louder than it probably would normally be, just for the sake of a jump scare. But even then, that's not really happening that much. Now, another thing, I do want to get a little serious. Well, actually, before we get a little serious, I want to talk about another thing that was in the back of my head a little bit, where I was like, this is kind of messing with your realism a little bit. Blair seems to really know computers really well. Or the internet really well.
Yeah.
Because she's like, she has like 50 tabs open. She's doing like a whole bunch of stuff at once.
Why are computers so slow?
But there are two moments where I was like, really, Blair, are you sure? They have to explain to her how to play Never Have I Ever.
Yeah.
And they have to explain to her what a troll is. That was a little baffling to me.
Yeah, that's a little unrealistic.
I don't know if that was going for, like, I think people over the age of 20 are going to be watching this movie. Maybe we should define what a troll is. I would think that's in everybody's vernacular by now, but okay.
I think so.
There was one older guy in there with us on the other side of the room. Maybe he needed... They knew he was going to be there.
He's a regular. He knows his stuff.
Yeah, he looked really uneasy, too. It's always fun to watch these movies because to watch people, like... Pretty much everybody that goes into a horror movie nowadays wants to go in saying... They go into a horror movie so they can say, this is not going to scare me. And it's always fun watching that backfire.
Then it's sinister and everybody gets scared with it.
Yeah, there were girls in there that kind of... Not to, generalize or anything, but... there were girls in there that looked like, the target audience.
Yes.
They didn't make much noise.
Nope.
And I think that might have been the terror.
They left quietly and they were not seen again.
And that's what's gonna really piss me off, is this is gonna be one of those movies that will trouble people, but they'll never admit it because they go in telling everybody they think it looks stupid. And I'm afraid that's gonna mess with its reputation, but...
I think it's doing quite well for itself right now.
Well, another reason that I think it rises above that is, this might sound a little like, oh, come on, but I'm being serious. When you think about the concept of this movie, if you take out and it's not like overbearing either, like it presents it in a really, really realistic way.
Mm-hmm.
if you completely take out the supernatural aspect of this movie, it's a really heartbreaking story about cyberbullying.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this... If I were that girl, yeah, my ghost would probably fuck shit up, too. Because when you gradually hear the backstory of why she committed suicide, that is cyberbullying to the max.
Without a doubt.
And you know that it really happens too.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's stories about it like every week.
The Weinstein documentary comes to mind.
And it gets really, really rough.
People are cruel.
And it presents it in such a way that is so real that it's not like it's beating you over the head saying, hey, you know, you better watch out for cyberbullying or you're going to get terrorized by ghosts and ripped to shreds and all that. No, I really buy it as it's, yeah. And I think that's another, because that's the thing is, yeah, it's a really freaky movie and it's totally psychotic.
Without a doubt.
But the thing about it is people saying it's not that scary may be onto something. Because it's a lot more disturbing than it is scary.
It's really disturbing.
Once again, don't get me wrong. Even if people don't admit to it, there's some really freaky shit that happens in this movie. The one line that kind of stood out to me, it's a really basic line. But when you get where the movie's going, it kind of makes your blood run cold when you see it. It's when they're getting really, really fed up with Billy's bullshit. And I think it was Jess that said, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to, you know, just beat the shit out of you. I'm going to come to wherever you are and I'm just going to end this right now. And it comes up and says, you wouldn't like it where I am.
Yeah, that was creepy as all get
Or
out.
you wouldn't like it here. As if to say they're still where they are in that moment that they said that.
I like how the Laura or Billy or whatever you want to call it takes over everything. Like, starts posting these really insane videos basically saying that all these people claim to be perfect and one by one she's going to dissect every single one of them.
It even takes over the 911 call.
That was nuts.
Yeah, this...
I loved it. It was great for what it was.
It's a crazy-ass movie. And like I said, I really hope people trying to be tough about going in and watching it don't ruin it. Because, you know... Yeah, we live in that time where horror movies are extremely, extremely vulnerable to this.
Oh, yeah.
Where if people go out and tell their friends, it wasn't scary, it was stupid, people will just believe that and either not watch it or convince themselves that it is when they watch it. And they'll never... Because apparently it's a terrible, horrible thing to come out and say, man, that movie scared the shit out of me, I'm not gonna lie. You have to be the tough guy now that's not scared by scary movies, but... This, like I said, it's more disturbing than anything.
It's really disturbing. It's uneasy, too.
Yeah.
Like, you feel really sick to your stomach after
And it even gets to that point to where, you know, like when you're, like, home alone by yourself, and you don't believe in ghosts or demons or stuff like that. But when you're alone by yourself at night, suddenly you believe in everything.
Yeah, of course.
And there's that moment where they're obviously teenagers living in a real world with real things going on. And there's that actual moment where Blair is messaging Mitch while all this is going on. And she's saying, I'm actually almost starting to believe this is, like, a real thing right now. And you slowly you gradually watched them realize that ghosts and demons are suddenly real in this world. And you see how they react to that specifically and how it gradually builds to them being skeptical of it to... oh my god, this is happening and the fucking thing is killing me right now. And it's insane. And once all this is in an unbroken hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it rolls real fast, too.
So, yeah.
This is the start of good horror in 2015, and I hope it continues.
I don't know.
We've got Poltergeist.
I don't know.
The trailer looks good. Sinister, too.
Most horror is guilty till proven innocent.
I agree with that.
Which I just accused of people with Unfriended with, but yes. So, yeah. If you go and it scares the shit out of you or disturbs the shit out of you, just say that.
Admit it.
Just, because I can't imagine, even with the stuff that's, like, even if it's not the scary stuff, even if it's the cyberbullying stuff, I can't imagine people watching this movie emotionless.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be really I don't know.
That person's got a lot
That'd be a
skeletons in their closet.
Yeah. I would be uncomfortable around anybody that watches this movie completely emotionless.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. Our last movie is a movie that just fell into our laps.
Yeah.
I have known only a couple of things about. Woman in Gold. Which is Helen Mirren's new movie. Which usually means it'll be fine, but not really that memorable. If it's a Helen Mirren movie outside of award season.
It'd be a Globes movie if it wasn't so early.
Even then, because The Last Station, gone.
Yeah.
Just out of my head completely.
It's all in Athens, I know that much.
Yes, so anyway. Okay, and Ryan Reynolds isn't. Ryan Reynolds is the other star of this. I didn't know he was in it till like a week ago.
He looks super young, too. Seriously, he really does.
It's usually because it depends on who you are. Serious Ryan Reynolds typically has the beard, but he didn't have the beard this time.
He doesn't have the Jason Lee look going for him.
Maybe that's what threw you off.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so the story of this is Helen Mirren was
Holocaust survivor.
Yes, and she. What do they call those people? And there is a painting. Obviously, you know, the Nazis and Hitler and all that, like, stole hundreds of thousands of paintings.
The Monuments Men?
I brought that up, don't worry.
Okay, good. I had that vibe all the time.
And one of those paintings was one of her aunt. And she's basically trying to fight the government and get it back in her possession. With the help of Ryan Reynolds, who is the all-American family guy, who's basically doing this because the painting could possibly be worth $100 million or more. And he's, you know, when I say all-American family, I mean, you know, he's got the wife, Katie Holmes, and they've got one kid and they have another on the way. I shit you not, they have a white picket fence.
Yeah.
They actually do. And there is one scene towards the end where they're having a barbecue in the backyard. Swear to God.
Yeah, there is.
So anyway, he is helping her to do this, and that's what our story is. And we keep getting flashbacks to the time period of when she was younger and the kind of how this all began. It took a while to get into this. It took a long time for me to get into this movie. For a long time there, I just wasn't feeling it. But as it progressed and started to get more into this, I think the thing that was throwing me off was I wasn't too big on the flashbacks. I understand why they're there, and I understand their importance, and they did quite well with the period detail and all that. But for the most part, I kind of felt they were a little unnecessary. Like, this story really could have been one of... You slept through the entire first half, I know. I'm like, telling you what happened and filling you in right now, because you're giving me the blank look.
I got some of the Philomena vibe from that part of the story, too.
A little bit, yeah. The older woman by a veteran actor being played by the guy who's typically known for comedy, helping her discover something from her past and hopefully find it and reconcile with everything.
Correct.
Yeah, I get that. So, Philomena's so much better than this, though. And so much more heartfelt. Not to say this movie isn't, I'm just saying, it took a while to get into this movie, and I felt the flashbacks didn't really have... They could have stayed in, not necessarily... It's set in, like, 1998, I think, is when present day is. I think they could have stuck with that, and the movie could have been a little bit shorter, which would have been nice, and also would have felt smoother and not as bogged down. And it would have made the movie better for it, I think. But I understand why it's in there. It's not totally, completely worthless or anything. And as far as being, as far as the flashbacks are concerned about it being, like, a Holocaust movie, it's not quite like that. It's not like watching Schindler's List or The Pianist or Downfall or anything, but the movie's only PG-13. It can't be like those.
There was an F-bomb, though.
Yeah. In present day, said by Ryan Reynolds, which means not a whole lot.
Yeah. Good point.
But it does have its moments. The moment, it's relatively early where she actually gets to see the painting for the first time in however long. It's a brief moment, but it works really well, and, you know, this is Mirren saying, like, I'm in a Weinstein movie, I gotta really step up my game in the performance department here. I think that's basically why the 40 set scenes were in there because it was Weinstein. It needed to look like a prestige project. It didn't look prestigious enough without them in there, so they just added to it. But yeah, it's certainly more interesting than the Monuments Men and stuff like that. Once it gets into the courtroom aspect where they have to go through all the different stages, surprisingly, it might not sound like it, but surprisingly, that's when it gets better and more interesting.
I agree with that.
To kind of get through that. There is a much bigger cast list in this than I knew going in. I knew Helen Mirren, and then a week ago I was like, oh, Ryan Reynolds is in that too. Like I said, Katie Holmes is the wife. That's all she does. She's the wife. Katie Holmes is so pointless in this movie. It's not till her third scene that she's even out of bed. And even then, it's the it's one or the other. It's you worked really hard to get this far, and I'm going to support you. Or you're away for so long, and we're about to have another kid. This kind of stuff cannot be going on. You have to be here and stuff like that. And it just goes back and forth with that. That's all she's here for. Daniel Bruhl is here, who is a nice welcome presence now. It's really funny to see him against the Nazis now.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
He's kind of their ally in helping this go through all this. We have Charles Dance, who I was talking about, I think is also in Child 44, so it worked out. Oh, yeah. And he is Ryan Reynolds' new boss. They kind of, gives him he's the very first person that kind of give him the go-ahead to do this thing. Frances Fisher showed up in there as a friend of hers, I guess. I always love Frances Fisher showing up in movies, even if she doesn't do anything. And Jonathan Pryce shows up in the last act, which I think I remember a long time ago hearing he was in this. But then it totally disappeared from my mind because I remember thinking Helen Mirren and Jonathan Pryce in a movie. We will never see this around here. I might as well forget this movie exists. And here we are. Watching it without having to leave town on a theater screen. It's weird.
And it was packed.
Yeah, that was weird too. Though we were in the smallest theater that we have.
Yes.
So yes, it's really nothing that special, but you can tell where it has its heart, and there are moments that are really, moving genuinely. Yeah. Not like overly or anything. Like it's not like, when things happen in this movie, my heart was absolutely ripped out of my chest and I was taken away to a magical place by this movie. But I was like, oh, that's nice. That's nice that happened. I'm glad that happened. On to the next thing. So, yeah, it's fine. And everybody who's in it is good. People always, including and especially me, people always get concerned when it's Ryan Reynolds not in a comedic role. Because he kind of goes one way or the other. He's either really, really great and just really, really owns it, or he's just the opposite of that.
A great Ryan Reynolds performance is buried.
Yeah, but he's the voices, which is one of the only things I recommended about that movie.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's exactly what you expect it to be. It's just right in that middle ground of, well, this was nice. I really didn't need this movie in my life. But this was a nice experience. I don't hate this movie. I won't remember it next week.
Or tonight, most likely.
Yeah. I already forgot fucking Paul Blart asshole. So.
It should be forgotten.
Okay, I think we're done here.
Alright, so PBA 2.
1.5.
You were very generous, sir.
Well,
I understand where you're coming from.
There's nothing to be passionate about.
What's the half,
I have to be passionate to hate it.
That's true.
No.
Unfriended.
I know that makes it sound worse, actually.
Yeah, it really does.
I don't know.
Unfriended.
3.
Yes, I agree. Woman in Gold.
2.5.
Yeah, okay. Alright, so ends another edition of AJ's Movie Reviews. Next week, Age of Adeline, Little Boy, and Monkey Kingdom. That's what we've got. So
just saying that made me tired.
I know. Tomorrow, I'm going to take on Rock Festival one last time for Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood and prove to you why The Walking Dead is coming to both coasts this year. And Ashley's going to have another Game with Ash segment. We have a brand new Versus this week. Train. That's your comment, because we had to flip things. And who knows, we may have to flip things next week, so we'll see. So, AJ, any parting words?